What you're looking at right here is the brand new Bose SoundLink Plus, a Bluetooth speaker that sits between the Bose SoundLink Flex, which has been winning a lot of awards, and the Bose SoundLink Max, a larger speaker where this is going to fill that gap. And this is going to be really good for a lot of use cases, as I'll talk about throughout this video. But it's interesting that although the profile of this really looks quite similar to the SoundLink Flex in terms of size and design, everything about it, and yet when you turn it sideways, it is significantly deeper. And with that, we are getting some pretty major benefits that I'll talk about throughout this video, as well as some other features and more updated specs we have on this compared to the SoundLink Flex. Now, there's a lot to talk about this speaker, a lot that I really like, a couple things that I don't like, and kind of had me scratching my head on what Bose was really thinking, but let's kind of start off with the basics. This design right here is, I think, pretty nice for a Bose speaker. It really fits the aesthetic of the lineup, and this comes in 3 different colors. There's Blue Dusk, as you can see right here. I personally really like this color a lot. There's a black version that is going to probably blend in with more environments, more homes, a little bit more mellow looking. And then there's a very bold and vibrant citrus yellow that, if that's your style, go for it. I do wish there was more of like a muted kind of tan kind of color that would just blend in with more lighter rooms, but we have 3 colors that I think look pretty good. The price on this is definitely significantly more than the SoundLink Flex, which I believe is $149. This is $269, but I will have a link in the description if you want to see what the latest sales price is, or if you actually want to see what I mean about those other colors there. But this, like I said, is the big brother to the award-winning SoundLink Flex. It's a lot more expensive, but it is double the weight, and I'll do a sound test in a minute to show that it also is significantly louder and significantly better sounding, in my opinion. Other things with the design, we have this nylon rope on the top that is going to be pretty ideal if you want to like hang this up somewhere. I would say you could hook this onto a backpack, but this is double the weight of the SoundLink Flex, coming in at about 3.2 or 3.3 pounds. So definitely a little bit heavy to be hanging on a backpack. More likely you'd hang this maybe in your shop or outside by a pool or anywhere they're going to be using it. There are several ways you could listen to it. Of course, you could set it down. It does stand up vertically quite well, or you could hang it as I mentioned. The front is a powder coated steel grille, which feels really nice and premium, and the rest of the body is silicone, or silicone coated at least, which I think is quite nice. It gives it a nice grippy feel. It feels very durable. It does attract a good bit of dust if you have any kind of static going on right here, but it also makes it so that it won't slide off of any surfaces. If you set it on a slightly slanted, maybe a car hood, for example, it shouldn't slide off very easily. This is also, talking about pools, IP67 water resistant, which means you could submerge this up to 3 feet for up to 30 minutes. It also floats in water, so if you're taking this by your pool, for example, or probably more likely in my situation would be like a river float, if you're just with some friends floating down the river on some tubes, this is an awesome thing to bring. And if you drop it, it's gonna float. You don't have to worry about losing it. It's pretty durable, and it also has moisture detection. So if we look at the back, the USB Type-C port is not covered, but if you get water in there, this will know, and it'll tell you on the app when you're able to plug it in or not able to plug it in. You kind of have to let that dry, sometimes for like an hour or 2, depending on, if you really drop it in the water. The battery life on this is 20 hours, or that's what it's claimed to be. Obviously, it depends on what volume you're listening to and how you're using this. But talking about that USB Type-C port on the back, it does more than just charge the speaker. You could also plug in a Type-C cable to whatever your phone is, Lightning or Type-C, and you can charge your phone off of this at 15 watts, which is fairly fast. It's pretty nice to get that out of a Bluetooth speaker. Being that it's so large, that makes sense that the battery should be able to charge your phone while you're listening. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to have wired audio playback. At least I haven't been able to get that to work, so I'm fairly certain this does not have wired audio playback. It definitely does not have a 3.5mm port for a headphone style cable, but being that this is meant to be more portable and Bluetooth oriented, I think that kind of makes sense. I still would like to see that there in case you want to plug this into something that doesn't have Bluetooth, but as it is, this only works by Bluetooth. And like I said before, because the front is fairly similar to the SoundLink Flex, and yet it's just a lot deeper, it works still quite well on a desk or on a kitchen counter, for example. It doesn't take up too much space. It's just a little bit deeper, which I think is pretty good. A drawback I noticed though, if you're using this, say in the kitchen, for example, maybe you get a phone call and you want to just answer the phone call on your speaker, this does not have a microphone. I'm not sure why they took that away. We have that on the SoundLink Flex, unfortunately not on this one. There is an app that we can control all of this, but before we get into the app, I want to start off with the sound. You've probably been wondering, how does this sound? Is it louder? Is there more bass? And I'm going to actually compare this to several other speakers. So let's start off with some samples. Now, as you can hear there, this has one subwoofer, one tweeter, and 4 passive radiators. It's kind of hard to see the passive radiators through the grill. It's pretty opaque, but in the right lighting, you can see them in there. In the app, there is a 3-band equalizer. I think that's a little bit weak. I would like to see a slightly more advanced equalizer, but I mean, I guess for most people that is okay. There are also some presets, so you could kind of reduce the bass a little bit and things like that. As far as codecs go, or really the resolution of your audio, of course, this does have the standard SBC and AAC, which most people realistically are going to be using. But if you do have a phone that is compatible with Snapdragon sound, this has aptX Adaptive. As far as the sound quality goes, you heard it for yourself, so you can leave a comment and let me know what you think about it. I think that for most consumers, this is going to sound quite good. My SoundLink Flex in the past, every time I've ever used it, I've always had people compliment it. They walk into the room and say, wow, this sounds really good. So it's going to depend on the room you're in and stuff like that. This one does definitely have a bigger boost in the bass, so it is larger. It makes sense. It's more capable with bass. And Bose always does have a little bit more of a consumer-centric tuning, so slightly lifted on the bass and a little bit on the high end as well to give more perceived clarity. And I think, based on my experience, this one does sound like that. So overall, for most people listening, this is going to sound absolutely fantastic. Now, digging into the features, I first want to start off with the buttons, and then it kind of explains what some of the features are. Across the top, the buttons are just kind of indented right there. So when you're not looking, it can be a little tough to know which button's which. There's not like an obvious plus, minus, whatever. You have to look at it. So anyone who's like visually impaired or in a darker room, that is going to be a little bit of a drawback. Additionally, this doesn't have any lights on it. So also in a lower light environment, you're not going to have this fun little like multicolor speaker that some other speakers do offer, especially at this price. But the buttons, we have the power button, we have the Bluetooth button, so you can connect to multiple different devices. And this does have multi-point connectivity. So 2 different phones or a phone and a laptop, and whichever one starts playing music, it'll automatically switch and play off of that one. So for example, if I'm playing on my laptop and then I think I want to play a video on my phone, I could just start playing and it'll switch over to my phone automatically and play the audio from my phone. We have a button in the middle here with 2 concentric rings. That is your customizable button. And I'll talk about what we can do that in a second. And then of course, volume down, volume up, and our playback controls for play pause. You could double press or triple press that to control, forward or back a song as well. This has something called Spotify Tap. So really the middle button you can customize to do that. And essentially if your phone is completely locked and you don't feel like taking it out of your pocket, you could just press a button and start playing Spotify on your speaker. This also has Bose Simple Sync, which is kind of a complex term. It includes a couple different things. Like in some situations, if you have a Bose soundbar and Bose headphones, you could use Simple Sync to listen on your headphones through the soundbar. Like someone else can go to bed and you can just watch TV on your headphones. But in this situation, Simple Sync is going to be used to connect multiple speakers. So if you have 2 of this speaker right here, you can connect both of them and have one playing in each room. And just a good thing if you have a party or something like that. So of course we have an app that can control the speaker. It's the Bose app, so it's kind of nice. They're streamlining this. We can look at the Bose SoundLink Flex here. We're able to control the volume, of course. You're able to change the source. So even though this does have multi-point connectivity, you could also go in here and say, maybe somebody else is playing music on here and like you're the owner of the speaker, it's connected to you. You want to turn off their phone just because maybe they keep playing music you don't like at a party. You could disable it here and make sure it's definitely connected to your phone rather than using multi-point connectivity. The EQ, as I mentioned, is just a 3-band EQ, not a whole lot there. The shortcut is customizable. You could either have SpeakerLink or Spotify. That's currently the only customization we have on there. It would be nice to see some more things on here. Like for example, if it had a microphone, voice assistant would be a great feature for that. Without a microphone, you can't do that, but it is what it is. And then we have tips on the bottom right, and on the top, if we tap on the little gear icon, you can change like the product name, you can check for updates. It should automatically be updating on its own though. And of course, you could go and do anything else like voice prompts. You can change language for that. And that's mostly what you can do in the app. There's not a whole lot here, as is typical of Bose, just a simple, minimal app. This also connects with Bluetooth 5.4, so that should be fairly future-proof. That's more than probably what most people need. But finally, breaking down the pros and cons. Like, it's a fairly minimal, simple speaker. Like I said, no lights, nothing fancy going on, just a good sounding, good looking speaker. The pros of this speaker: great sound, a very easy recommendation for pretty much anybody out there who wants a speaker of this size. Also, it floats and it's water resistant, so great around boats, pools, rivers, whatever. I think it's kind of a beautiful, minimal design that makes it easy to blend into a lot of different environments. Obviously, the color ones are going to be more of an accent. The black colorway is going to blend into your room a little bit better, and this would also be pretty ideal for a lot of different use cases, whether that is grilling out, hanging out on a boat, maybe pick up basketball if you need something a little bit louder, but also small enough that you can throw it in a backpack, maybe a small tailgate, a dinner party, or just maybe around your house if you're cleaning up and you want to be able to hear it in multiple rooms. This is loud enough you could definitely do that. This would be great in like a garage or a workshop, or even like I said, if you're like on the beach or on a river float, that would be great. Obviously make sure that nobody else is around. Like, you don't want to be that guy with a very loud speaker and assuming everyone else likes your music, but in a place that nobody else is and you want to play some music, like this thing can definitely crank. You can get a lot of volume out of this. It sounds a lot bigger in my opinion than it actually is, but not everything is perfect with this speaker. There are some drawbacks. One, it's very expensive. $269 is no small chunk of change. You're getting a bigger and better speaker out of this compared to the Flex, but I think for a lot of people, if you're like, well, you're hanging out on a boat, you're doing something like that, $150 is a lot cheaper, and although it's a lot quieter and a lot smaller, alternatively, there are other more budget-friendly speakers from Soundcore, for example, that are even at the same price going to be a lot larger or just, have lights and things like that. This also doesn't have a microphone, as I mentioned. I think that's a bit of a drawback if you want to use this somewhere and accept phone calls, and the lack of a wired audio input like a 3.5mm port on the back could also be viewed as a drawback. But I would still say this is a very versatile and easy to recommend speaker, especially if you find a sale for that. Again, I'll have a link down below if you want to see if there is a sale going on. But overall, this is still a really easy speaker to recommend. I think it's going to sound great. It's very durable. It should last a very long time. The app is super solid now after Bose kind of switched between multiple apps, and they're finally consolidating to having just one app. And I think that if you can't get quite enough sound out of like the SoundLink Flex or a JBL Flip or something like that, you want something a little bigger, but you don't want a jumbo karaoke speaker, this one can still easily fit in a backpack and really delivers a lot more than you'd expect for its size. So that is the Bose SoundLink Plus. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about it, any questions you have, and if I should compare this to anything else. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike O'Brien, and I'll see you in that comparison.